We just talked to David. He's had an incredible run through conference. What's impressed you most about him, and what stands out, what he's been doing?
Well, I think, we talked about him, physically being ready to make an impact as a freshman, even all the way back in the fall. But the challenge always is the mental aspect of it. Mm-hmm. Where some freshmen, hit a wall, he hasn't done that. He's fearless, and he doesn't shy away from big plays, big moments. He's done a great job of learning from the older guys, but at the same time, kind of carving out his own identity on the team. And I think, obviously, he's made a huge impact on our program on a daily basis. And I just think he's only going to get better. I think, as I've said time and time again, one of his greatest attributes is every single day he comes to work. And that's something that's important in our program. We need to develop, that's a big part of our cultural piece of what we want to have is, 13 guys like that. Yeah. And when 3 guys aren't ready to go, the other 10 are pulling them with them. And that's, we got to get to that point, and David's a big part of that. And I think that's why he's been, he's had great success. He doesn't get too high or too low. You can coach him. I can get on him if he makes a mistake, and he knows the second after I get on him, we're all moving on. And being able to handle that, because, to become great, you need to be told what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Yeah. And he's pretty good at that.
Do you think you're seeing some leadership qualities out of him? As a freshman, obviously, in the way that the roster is set up, maybe, the leadership stuff you wouldn't necessarily think, but have you seen that from him?
I think he has the potential to be an exceptional leader for us, because he's got a good understanding of who he is and what he does. And in this day and age, one of the biggest challenges with guys in leadership is they're just not comfortable with who they are yet. And it's hard to lead unless you're playing well and you know exactly what you need to do. And I think that's part of his growth. But he does communicate pretty well. I think that's an area he can improve in. And at the same time, it's a difficult situation to try to take over more leadership as a freshman when you have, 3 or 4 or 5 seniors on the team. But at the same time, I think he's starting to do more and more of that.
Obviously, the last few games or so in the stretch, it's been kind of difficult. What have you seen from the team from a confidence standpoint?
Well, I think one of the things that we've been challenged with is, some droughts. Against Tulsa, it was with 4 minutes to go in the first half. It's a 3-point game, and we don't score until the 14.5 mark in the second half. Now that was probably the longest one that we've had, but there was a couple droughts in the Central Florida game, and outside of that, we're competing. We're doing a lot of good things. It's the confidence part has to come into play during that stretch. Right now, we don't have guys that either have enough experience within our program or enough experience in the role that we're asking them to do to be able to kind of carry us through that. So instead of it being a 10-0 run, it's an 8-4, and now you're still within striking distance. And I think as we move forward with these last 3 regular season games and heading into the tournament, we've addressed that. Obviously, we had this week off to kind of catch up a little bit on some stuff, and hopefully you'll see us do a better job of that.
Going back to David for a minute, after the Tulsa game, you said he was doing some really good things defensively. How difficult is it, or how much of it is it for freshmen like David to be able to defensively put it together for long stretches or for game to game?
It's hard, because what they've been able to do in the past, they've always been more or less the best player on the court. So you can go through stretches where you're not focused in defensively, where you're going to be able to make it up on the offensive end, But he understands in this program you got to play on both ends of the court. He's gotten, you look at who we're starting him on in the last 4 or 5 games. It's been on the best perimeter player from the other team. That's a compliment to him. It's also a compliment to where we think he can get to. I think he can be an exceptional player on both ends. You know, a defensive stopper, but also a guy that can score points, create scoring opportunities, rebound the ball, different things like that. So the level of concentration is always hardest for freshmen defensively. And to understand that the hardest part of defense is not one-on-one coverage. It's when your man doesn't have the ball. Are you there to help your teammates? Are you in the right position? Are you communicating? Stuff like that.
Realistically, the 12th seed, you may be in the conference tournament, nothing expected to show up and go home. But do you have a suspicion that if you guys can close those droughts off, that you have a team that can at least surprise them?
Well, if you look at our games, you know, we've been very competitive. You know, yeah, I can go through the list. 8 minutes ago against Temple, it's a 3-point game. The game the other night, you know, the Central Florida game. You go down the list. So it was interesting. I heard a really good comment. At this time of the year, every team is right around the corner from a rut or a run. You know what I mean? And our job is with these next 3 games, irregardless of if we keep moving towards that run area. You know what I mean? And that means our defense has to get a little better in those times, and our offense has to do the 2 main things. We got to make shots, and we got to not turn the ball over. When we get open shots, we need to put those in. And that's every bit as frustrating for our players as anything else. When they know offense created a good shot or your teammate created a good shot for you, and we're not able to finish the play, either on a layup or an open shot or a move in the post. And hopefully if you can do those things heading into Orlando, you have some momentum going into those games.
You know, you talk about making noise against a team like Tulane. You know, you were able to do that on the road, hard-fought victory. You get the chance to play them again. What are some things that you're hoping to see from the team to try to pull off another win?
Well, you know, Tulane's been snake bit. You know, they played really well last night at Wichita State. They have one of the premier players in the league in Frazier, and one of the best seniors in the league in Cam Reynolds. You know, so we played very well there. We made layups. We made layups at their place, and it's amazing when you put the ball in the basket, around the basket, how things go a lot better. But you know, they've lost a lot of close games over the last couple weeks, so we're going to have to play extremely well. We got to do a great job of guarding the basketball. Got to do a great job of mixing up our defenses, and then offensively, you know, we got to shoot the ball well. You know, the old adage, everything looks a lot better when the ball goes through the basket. You know, and when you see the ball go through on a couple layups, then all of a sudden some of those threes are a little easier to make as well. You know, basket gets bigger. So, you know, this is again with 2 home games left and a week to kind of recover, but also prepare. I think we'll be ready to go Saturday afternoon.
Samir Sayich. He got
Sayich.
loose on you guys in the first game.
Yeah. He you know, he's a tough matchup because he plays strictly at the 5. Percentage-wise, he's the best 3-point shooter. Doesn't take as many, roughly 1/4 of his shots are threes. So it's a tough matchup for our 5-man. We lost some concentration and had some missed coverages that got him some open shots. So we're going to have to do a much better job with him in this game. The other thing that he did and has been doing, he's scoring around the basket more. They can really drive the ball from 4 positions. So he's the recipient of a lot of drop-offs as help comes and rotations happen, and he's their best offensive rebounder at 2 a game. So we have to do a really good job of being able to help and still put a body on him, being able to help and take away a sink and fill on the backside on drop-offs. He had a big and 1 against us down the stretch when they were making their comeback on on a drop-off right at the basket. So we got to do a good job on him because when he scores like he did 16 against Wichita State, they're a much different team.
I was going to say about how it's going to be a heck of a tournament outside of the top 3, maybe also exception. Everyone thinks they have to win the thing. How deep is it as far as teams that could pull it off?
Well, you look at, I can name a couple teams. Temple is good enough to beat anybody. You know what I mean? Memphis offensively with Martin, they can get it going and they can win 3-4 games in a row. You know, you just, you know, and you mentioned Tulsa, who's playing again. Tulsa and Houston are probably playing as well as anybody in the league right now. You know, and they both play a little different brand of basketball. They do some unique things to their program that in a one-day turnaround may be hard to prepare for. You know, you go against, you know, you play us or you play someone else, and then all of a sudden you gotta, if you play Tulsa, now you're gonna see zone the whole game. And you may have played the last 3 games and not seen a zone possession in all 3 games. So in those situations, you know, and you know, you go through the list. Yeah, you look at Central Florida, you know, they can, when they're good offensively, they've already proven how good they are defensively. When they're good offensively, again, they can beat anybody. If SMU gets healthy, if Shake comes back for them, you know, they're just a different team. So it's going to be a heck of a few days in Orlando. There'll be some wild games, I can guarantee you that.
Before we get to the conference tournament, you're going to have one more game as well, the senior day right around the corner too. What is this graduate and transfer class with Terrence and Jiggets and everyone? What do they mean to your staff and helping ease everyone's staff with getting acclimated to USF and helping maybe the freshman and incoming class?
Yeah, I mean, they've done a great job. You know, there's no doubt there's going to be some disappointment in some of the games and different things like that. But to their credit, they knew what they were getting into. They wanted an opportunity to work on their advanced degree, and all 3 have done an incredible job of that. They wanted to lay the groundwork a little bit for future success here. They wanted to stabilize our program. They've done that. You know, we needed, you know, high character guys to be able to fight through this initial phase of the building process, and they've done a wonderful job of that. At the same time, they've each had brilliant moments, you know what I mean, where they've helped us be very, very successful. And I know what they want to do is they want to end it on a couple positive notes as well. You know, every win, you know, is another block in terms of what we're trying to do, because every win that we get from now to the rest of the season is something that hasn't been done over the last couple of years. You know what I mean? But also just their daily approach has been good for not only the 3 freshmen that we have in the program, but also the 2 guys sitting out to see how they go about it. They're, you know, obviously all 3 of them are good at communicating and able to share some experiences with the young guys. So they may not reap the benefits this year, but down the road when this program is where we all want it to be and we're having great success and all that, we're going to look at those 3 guys and understand exactly how big of a role they played in that.
Great.
All
Thank
good?
you very
All
much.
right, guys.
Appreciate
You got
it.
it.